Hello everyone, Mob Spider here, hope you all are having a fantastic day today. Black Ops 6 released its final map not too long ago in the form of The Reckoning. And I'm not gonna lie, as I've played through this game throughout its life cycle, this game is very strong in terms of zombies. While I know people have been complaining about the multiplayer since, I want to say, Season 1, I would be completely honest when I say that the zombies, I think, is doing very well, and I'm very happy with how it has turned out this past year, especially the maps. So today, I want to rank all of the maps from what I consider to be worst to best. Now, a couple of things before we get started. First of all, this is my opinion, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that there is a bad map in this game. Not only that, but also my opinion of where I would rank these maps was constantly changing. You could ask me about my order next week, and I would probably have a completely different order than what is in this video. So just know that if I have your favorite map ranked towards the lower side, I don't think it's bad by any means. It's just that, in my opinion, I think the other maps have better aspects to them. Second of all, I am going to get into spoilers for this game and the maps as well. So if there's a map that you haven't done the Easter egg for or whatever, I would either skip the section or just go do it in directed mode or watch a video on it or something, if you don't want it spoiled for you at least. I will give a warning when I am going to be spoiling stuff, but just be aware. But with that being said, let's begin. So, coming in at 6th place, or what I consider to be the weakest map in this game. Keep in mind, I'm saying weakest, but I still think that this map is very good. But there's really only two that it could potentially be, and you probably know what the bottom spot is going to be. That will be the tomb. Now, before I talk about why this is at the bottom, let me talk about some stuff that I really do like about this map, because, as I've said, I don't think this map is bad in the slightest. First of all, the aesthetic and the setting is very unique, and honestly, it's pretty visually pleasing, especially the Dark Nexus area when you teleport into it. This map just looks very good. Not only that, but the layout is also easy to understand. It has a very good Pack-a-Punch camo in my opinion, and for how small the map is, it is packed with content. There are a lot of side Easter eggs on this map for how small it is, which is honestly really cool. However, that's going to lead to my cons. I do think that the side Easter eggs, while there is a plethora of them, they are very simple, and honestly, most of them are more just setup Easter eggs than anything. The only ones that I can think of that aren't really for setting up are the jump scare Easter egg and the free ray gun Easter egg. Aside from that, though, it's just stuff like giving you points or power-ups or like a random perk or an Aether tool. Again, these aren't bad Easter eggs by any means. They're just very simple, and they kind of leave a lot to be desired. Speaking of Easter eggs being very simple and leaving a lot to be desired, that's also the case with the main quest as well. It is literally just building and upgrading the ice staff, then doing 4 lockdowns, and then you have the boss fight. The boss fight isn't bad, but I would probably consider it to be the weakest of this very strong bunch. Also, speaking of the ice staff, I just don't think it really has a reason to be here. It just kind of feels like they just threw this in to try and get your nostalgia juices flowing, where I just don't really think it matches all that much. I mean, to be fair, this is a better match than some like the Apothecan's Servant, but I think that this map is desperately needing some sort of like an original wonder weapon. I was talking to a friend and I suggested maybe like a stalagmite like launcher, like a crossbow almost. Considering that this map does mostly take place in a cave, I think that that would have been a pretty cool wonder weapon. But we got the ice staff back, and while the ice staff is my favorite of the staves, I'm gonna be totally honest, I think that it was just kind of a missed opportunity and they just didn't really have a wonder weapon, so they decided to just throw that back in there. However, I still do like the tomb. I don't think it is a bad map by any means. Coming in at the number 5 spot, this is going to be Liberty Falls. Now, this map was hated before it even came out, but once it did come out, I feel like people kind of lightened up to it. And to be fair, there is a lot to like about this map. This map is suitable for just about any playstyle, whether you like to train or camp, there's definitely going to be an area in the map for you. Also, this map is pretty good for camo and calling card grinding, so if you were trying to get Nebula, this was most likely the map you were playing. This map is also very casual and easy to understand, with no real insane setup for things like the Pack-a-Punch, unlike some other maps. This map also has very memorable side Easter eggs. I'm talking about things like the zombie dance party, turning yourself into the Aetherella statue, and of course it would be wrong if I didn't mention the bowling minigame here. Also, the jet gun got an upgrade, and it is so much better than the one in Transit. As far as the cons of this map go, it does have the most boring setting of this game. It's just your stereotypical town map that we've seen in a bunch of other games. I'm talking about things like Town or Transit from Black Ops 2, Shadows of Evil or Gorod Krovi from Black Ops 3, and Mauer der Toten from Cold War, and so on and so forth. However, each of those had their own identity, where this one just feels like a generic town with nothing really interesting about it. Also, this map has probably the weakest boss fight. I wouldn't say it has the weakest Easter egg, because the tomb is literally just getting the Wonder Weapon and doing 4 lockdowns, but this one isn't much better, and this one I wouldn't even necessarily consider a boss fight, since it's more of a holdout section than anything. And also, probably my least favorite part of the map, the Margwa ripoff returns. Like, seriously, who invited this fucker from Forsaken? However, despite the cons that I listed for Liberty Falls, I still think that this is a fun, casual map that's very easy to get into. So before we get into the top 4, let me say that these could be in any order. You could ask me tomorrow and my order could be completely different. But as of right now, number 4 is going to be Shattered Veil. Now, the things I like about this map, there is quite a bit of them. The aesthetic of this map is incredible, especially considering the fact that it is right outside of Liberty Falls. You can actually see Liberty Falls right outside of the spawn room, but this map has its own aesthetic that makes it feel so much different. Also, the remade Wonder Weapons, unlike in the Tomb, they actually make sense here. With this being Richthofen's home, it makes sense that the Wunderwaffe and the Raygun Mark II would return. The side Easter eggs as well are very unique, and they're quite in-depth, with things like the sleepwalking Easter egg, and even the jump scare Easter egg requiring actually some sort of setup for them. And I do really like that. And this is where I'm going to get into spoilers. The boss fight on this map is absolutely fantastic. Fighting against a zombified T-Rex is something I never thought I would see in zombies, but now that I have seen it, I wish we got this sooner because it is fucking awesome. However, when it comes to why this is at the bottom of my top 4, it could really be boiled down to 2 main components. First of all, the layout can be pretty confusing and claustrophobic for your first couple times playing, and while that's also the case with another map, I feel like this one is just a little too big, honestly. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against like big zombies maps like Terminus or Dead of the Night or whatever. I just feel like a portion of this map probably could have been cut. And also, the main reason why this is at number 4 is that the main quest leading up to the boss fight, in my opinion at least, is pretty weak. It's basically pretty similar to the Tomb, where you just upgrade the Raygun Mark II to 3 different variants, you do a little lockdown on them, and you basically just start the boss fight from there. The boss fight is amazing, but leading up to that, it's just pretty weak in my opinion. But this is still a very high quality map, just like all the others in the game. In my opinion, the 3rd best map in this game is actually the newest map, Reckoning. The pros for this map, the main quest is pretty fun and engaging, with this being, in my opinion at least, the 2nd best Easter egg in the game. It also gives you the option of 2 different boss fights, both of which are very difficult but also really fun, with one of them being you fighting Sam and the other one being you fighting Richtofen. both of these boss fights are very well done, and this is something that I could say about the whole game. The boss fights fix a problem that I've had with a lot of boss fights in this series, especially with Cold War more specifically. And that's that in most boss fights, at least from ones that I've played, the bosses themselves were never really the main threat. It was the zombies that were attacking you. I'm talking about things like the Legion boss from Outbreak, which I'm still not a huge fan of, despite a lot of people disagreeing with that take. But that's fine, it's just a hot take of mine. But both of these boss fights are very fun, and the bosses themselves are actually pretty, hard threats that you gotta worry about. Speaking of two different options, the Wonder Weapon also gives you two different unique upgrade quests. However, the upgrades work pretty similarly, so it doesn't really matter what side you go with aside from, storytelling purposes. Also, the side Easter eggs are very well done and very fun to complete. I'm talking things like the Aetherella, companion that you can get, and also the Aether Blade Easter egg, which at the time of me recording this video you can't even do because they haven't added the Mr. Peaks Field upgrade yet. But once they do add it, I can probably safely say that that will be my favorite Easter egg in this map. As for the things that I don't like about this map, first of all, the unupgraded version of the Wonder Weapon is pretty crap, and the Wonder Weapon itself is pretty hard to get. To upgrade it, it's not that big of a deal, but when it comes to the unupgraded version, for how much effort you gotta put into it, it's pretty garbage. Also, the map can get extremely hectic from, I want to say, round 25 plus. If you thought Liberty Falls got hectic when the game first came out, this map is like 10 times that. And I feel like that could be pinpointed to one specific enemy in this map, and that's the Uber Klaus. I swear, I call these things Requise because of how many times they've screwed me over on this map. And these things are tanks too, so you gotta make sure you're prepared for them. They are pretty difficult, but once you know how to deal with them, they're not too bad, but they can really catch you off guard with their fist attacks, and especially their energy mine attacks, which I hope they tone them down because these things have downed me so many times. Also, this is going to be a pretty major spoiler. The Forsaken returns on this map, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty disappointing. You just need to kill him in order to get the, Gorgafex Wonder Weapon, but he just goes into an Uber class. I was hoping that maybe he would be, the main boss of this map, but that's not the case, which is a little disappointing, but overall, this map is still really fun and really well made. Now, I had a really hard time ranking these final two maps. Hell, I would honestly consider these two maps to be in my top 5 maps of all time. And like I said, the order for my top 4 was constantly changing, but number 2 and number 1 especially could be tied. But with that being said, one of them has to rank better than the other, so let's get to the final 2. So coming in at the number 2 spot, this is going to be Terminus. There is so much to like about this map that I'm not even really sure where to begin. First of all, the map is very open and it is very fun to explore, especially once you finally leave the facility and turn on the Pack-a-Punch. There are so many different islands to explore and train on, and it is very fun. And honestly, I could just say that about pretty much everything about this map. It has a fun main quest, it has fun and memorable side Easter eggs with stuff like the Stuffy Pet, the Whack-a-Crab minigame, and the Boat Race minigame. Just, this map is very fun. And not only that, but it has an amazing atmosphere. It's both creepy and also pretty nice, considering it kind of has a sort of tropical aesthetic almost. And let me just say, the amalgams are absolutely terrifying. These are top 3 scariest boss zombies in the entire series. The only other 2 that were able to scare me were the brutes from Zombies in Spaceland and the werewolves from Dead of the Night. But the first time I came across an amalgam on one of my friend's streams, I was pretty fucking terrified, let's just say that. And also, the storytelling of this map is amazing as well. And I'm not talking about just the main Easter egg, but I'm talking about things like the opening and mid-game cutscenes, the intel drops that you can get throughout the map, It's just that this map probably has the strongest story of the entirety of this game, which I really do like that. However, there are a couple of things that I could say that I'm not really a huge fan of when it comes to this game, but it's mostly nitpicks more than anything. The first being that amalgams and manglers, when they're together, can be pretty annoying, especially with the amalgam's grab and the mangler's cannon. It can be pretty devastating if you happen to get caught in the crossfire with that. Also, the main boss, while I wouldn't call it bad, I do think it is a little overhyped. I hear people saying that it's like a top 5 boss in the entire series, and I honestly don't agree with that, but it isn't a bad boss at all. Overall, this map is just very fun, and it does have a lot to explore as well. I would probably consider this the most replayable map in the game. However, there is one map that I like more than Terminus, and that is going to be our number 1 spot, Citadel de Mort. Now, depending on who you are, you either agree with me or you really want to punch me in the fucking face for putting this above Terminus. But let me try and explain myself here, because I do think that Citadel does some things better than Terminus, and I also think that Terminus does some things better than Citadel. Like I said, these were pretty close, and they honestly could have tied. But when it comes to what I like about Citadel that I think it does better than Terminus, first of all, the swords and incantations are fun and easy to make. And not only that, I just prefer the 4 elemental wonder weapons, because not only does it allow each player to have a different wonder weapon, but also it allows replayability. So, for example, in one game you could choose to do the Lion Sword, and then in the next you could do like the Raven Sword. Also, I think that this map has the best main quest and boss in the entire game. I just think that this map is very well designed when it comes to its Easter egg, and it also allows for kind of more freedom, with you being able to tackle the swords in whatever order you want. You can even do the incantations before you get the swords. You can do the blood trap step before you do it. Basically, it's just the most freedom kind of Easter egg, where you can kind of do the steps in whatever order you feel like. Also, I think that this map has a perfect mix of both casual and hardcore gameplay. The Easter egg, I wouldn't exactly call it hard, but it's not stupid easy either, like the Tomb or Liberty Falls. And also, while this map does have a castle aesthetic that has been done before, this map feels so much different than Drak, but also kind of feels the same in some ways, like with the elemental wonder weapons. But I think the reason why it feels so much different is both due to the layout and also just the skybox and general color palette. And this doesn't really have anything to do with my placement, but I just gotta talk about it here since I'm talking about Citadel. Slave is a top 3 Easter egg song. Seriously, if you haven't heard this song, please do so. It is so fucking good. Are there any negatives I'd say about Citadel? Well, yeah, of course. First of all, I do think that when it comes to Citadel, unlike Terminus, I think it just kind of lacks on the side Easter egg department. There's really only 2 memorable ones, that being the chess piece and the Rat King one. All the other ones are pretty forgettable, to be honest. And also, they brought back amalgams in this map, and while I don't hate it, I don't think they fit as much in this map as they did in Terminus. But overall, both of these maps are very high quality maps, and I would probably have both of them in at least my top 10, if not my top 5. Overall, I am very happy with how this game turned out in terms of zombies. There's not a single bad map in this game. They're all pretty high quality, and I really hope that Black Ops 7 continues this streak of absolutely amazing maps. But there you have it. That is, in my opinion, every map in Black Ops 6 ranked from worst to best. If you disagree, I totally understand. Like I said, I had a hard time figuring out this order because it constantly changed for me. There would be days where a map would be at number 4 and then would go back to number 1 and then would go down to like number 5. So figuring out a concise order that I would agree with for a while was pretty difficult. Hell, I might not agree with this video by the time this video comes out. But Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you agree with anything I said or disagree, please feel free to leave a comment. I'd be interested to see what other people think. And with that being said, guys, this was Mob Spider, and I'll talk to you all next time. Peace out.